You know that moment, that one single crystal clear moment where your entire life just splits in two. There's the before, and there's the after. And the line between them is so sharp it feels like a physical cut. I'm standing in the wreckage of what was supposed to be the best night of our lives. The air is thick with the smell of spilled beer and broken dreams. A lamp is shattered on the floor, buzzing its last breath, and my lip is bleeding. I can taste the copper tang of it, a metallic reminder of the line I just crossed. And my girlfriend, the woman I was ready to build a future with, she's staring at me not with concern, not with love, but with pure, undiluted anger. Her eyes are glistening with tears she's too furious to shed, and she just said the words that would end us. Not a shout, not a scream, a cold, hard ultimatum that left no room for negotiation. If you won't apologize to him, then we're done. Apologize to him. The man who just told the love of my life in front of all our friends that she was too good for me. The man who'd been slowly, methodically poisoning our relationship for 2 straight years. I looked at her, in our ruined home, my face throbbing, my heart shattered, and I realized I had my answer. I knew what I had to do, but to understand how we got to this catastrophic, heart-shattering moment, I need to take you back to the beginning, back to when I thought I was the luckiest man alive. Before the wreckage, right, there was just joy, pure, uncomplicated joy. Her name was Chloe, and meeting her felt like the universe had finally clicked into place. We met at a coffee shop of all places. Not some grand romantic setup, just 2 people reaching for the same pastry, a chocolate croissant. We laughed, I insisted she take it, and we ended up sharing it at a tiny table by the window. She was brilliant, had this wit that could floor you, and a laugh that felt like coming home. She was pursuing her PhD in literature, and listening to her talk about her passion was my new favorite hobby. I was Leo, just a guy who designs websites, who thought he'd hit the jackpot. We fit, it was easy. We moved in together after a year into a small apartment that felt like a palace because she was in it. We'd spend weekends building furniture, arguing over what to stream, planning trips we'd one day take. It was perfect, but there was always a third shadow in our sunny apartment. His name was Mark. Chloe and Mark had been inseparable since their freshman year of college. He's like my brother, she'd say, her voice always softening with affection. He got me through my first real heartbreak. He's family, and I believed her. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be the secure modern boyfriend who wasn't threatened by his girlfriend's male best friend. He had a longtime girlfriend, Sarah, which, in my naive mind, was the ultimate safety net. It meant he wasn't a threat, right? Oh, how wrong I was. The first time I met him plays in my head like a bad movie. Chloe was so excited. You're going to love Mark, he's a character. We did a double date. Fancy pizza place. I remember the way he shook my hand. It wasn't a shake, it was an assessment. A quick limp grip followed by a once-over that made me feel like a specimen under a microscope. He didn't say hello. He said, "So you're the new guy. Chloe usually has better taste." He laughed. Sarah, his girlfriend, let out this nervous giggle. Chloe just rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, stop it, Mark, don't be a jerk." She said it like you'd scold a puppy for chewing a slipper, not like an adult had just insulted her partner upon first meeting. The entire dinner was a masterclass in subtle degradation. I'd mention a project at work, and he'd steer the conversation back to some wild story from his and Chloe's college days. I'd offer an opinion on the wine, and he'd make a joke about my unrefined palate. It was all under the guise of just joking, man. But the message was clear. I was an outsider, an intruder, and I was being weighed, measured, and found wanting. I tried to talk to Chloe about it afterward. "Hey, is Mark always so intense?" She sighed like she'd had this conversation before. "He's just protective. He's got a rough shell, but he's a marshmallow inside. He'll come around. Just give him time." So I did. I gave him time. I gave him chance after chance after chance for 2 years, and that was my first and biggest mistake, giving him time. What a joke. Time didn't soften Mark. It just gave him more opportunities to sharpen his knives. It was never one big thing. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts, a constant low-grade hum of disrespect that became the soundtrack of my life with Chloe. If we were all hanging out at our place, which was often, Mark would physically position himself between me and Chloe on the couch. He'd playfully shove me out of the way to get to the snack bowl she was holding, like I was just furniture. If I told a story, he'd listen with a bored smirk. Then when I finished, he'd say, "Cool story, bro," and immediately launch into a better, funnier one about him and Chloe. He'd interrupt me, talk over me, and if I dared to correct him on a fact, he'd just look at Chloe and say, "Wow, someone's feeling feisty tonight." And Chloe, she'd just sigh. "That's just Mark," she'd say later. When I'd bring it up, my nerves frayed. He doesn't mean it. He jokes like that with everyone. But he didn't. I watched him. He was perfectly polite, even charming with everyone else. His disdain had my name on it. The worst part was the forced camaraderie. My birthday, and Chloe insisted he had to be there. He got me a gift card to a store he knew I hated. "Oh, sorry, man," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "I guess I don't know you as well as I thought." Then there was the car. His beat-up junker finally gave up the ghost. He was broke. Chloe, my sweet big-hearted Chloe, volunteered my mechanical skills and my money. "Leo can fix it, and we can front you the cash for the parts until you get paid, right, honey?" She looked at me with so much hope. What was I supposed to say? I spent my entire Saturday covered in grease fixing the car of a man who openly despised me. He stood there, leaning against the garage door on the phone, barely lifting a finger. When I finished, hands raw, he tossed me a beer, muttered a "Thanks, dude." And that was it. The $400 for the parts? Never saw a dime of it. When I mentioned it to Chloe months later, she looked surprised. "Really? I'm sure he just forgot. He's so scatterbrained. Don't worry about it." Don't worry about it. That was her mantra. Let it go. He doesn't mean it. That's just how he is. I started to feel like I was going crazy. Was I being too sensitive? Was I imagining this targeted campaign of subtle aggression? But then I'd catch a look from Sarah, his girlfriend. A wince, an apologetic eye roll when Mark would make a particularly cutting remark. She saw it. Everyone saw it. But no one said anything because that's just Mark. The isolation was the most brilliant part of his strategy. He never gave me a clear, obvious reason to explode. No single incident was bad enough to warrant a full-blown confrontation. If I'd tried to explain it to someone, it would have sounded pathetic. "He's mean to me at game night." It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, designed to make me look like the insecure, jealous boyfriend if I ever dared to fight back. And I played my part perfectly. I swallowed my pride. I bit my tongue until it bled. I smiled through the humiliation for 2 long years, all for the sake of the woman I loved. I told myself I was being the bigger man. But everyone has a breaking point. Even the bigger man. And Mark, he was about to find mine. After 2 years of walking on eggshells, we decided to throw a party, a proper housewarming. Our little apartment was finally feeling like a home, and we wanted to fill it with friends, laughter, and good vibes. For the first time in months, I was genuinely excited. Maybe, just maybe, with a crowd around, Mark would be on his best behavior. The night started perfectly. Music was pumping, the air was buzzing with conversation. Everyone was there. My buddies from the gym, Chloe's PhD colleagues, even Sarah, and Mark. He gave me a curt nod when I handed him a drink. Civil. That was a win. I remember thinking, maybe tonight's the night he turns a corner. I let my guard down. I was actually having fun. At one point, I was on the couch and Chloe curled up on my lap, her head on my shoulder. We were laughing at a friend's terrible dance moves, surrounded by our people. Felt it. That deep, contented feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be. For a single golden moment, Mark didn't exist, and then the music dipped, just for a second. And in that pocket of silence, our friend, a guy named Ben, raised his glass. "A toast," he slurred happily. "To the hosts, to Chloe and Leo. You're just the best. Seriously." People cheered. Chloe squeezed my hand, her smile lighting up the whole room. My heart felt like it was going to burst. And then, his voice, cold, clear, and dripping with contempt. It cut through the warmth like a shard of ice. "Yeah, Chloe," Mark said, loud enough for everyone to hear. He wasn't even looking at me. His eyes were locked on her with this patronizing, almost pitying smirk. "You know you could do so much better than this, right?" The room froze. The smile melted off Chloe's face. You could hear a pin drop. Someone gasped. It was like all the oxygen got sucked out of the room. 2 years. 2 years of snide comments, of backhanded compliments, of passive aggression. 2 years of biting my tongue, of swallowing my pride, of being the bigger man for the woman I loved. It all condensed into one white-hot atomic point of pure rage in the center of my chest. I felt Chloe get off my lap. I stood up. The world had narrowed to a tunnel with Mark at the end of it. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was low, guttural. "What did you just say?" He finally looked at me, that smirk never fading. "You heard me, I'm being honest. She could do a lot better." And I snapped. The dam broke. "Better than me?" I roared. "I've done nothing but love her and support her. I pay the bills in this apartment he's standing in. I fixed your damn car when you couldn't afford it. What have you ever done besides leech off her and poison everything?" I saw his smirk vanish, replaced by raw, shocked fury. I'd hit the nerve. I'd finally spoken the truth he'd been hiding behind his cool guy facade. "You son of a—" he snarled, and he lunged at me. Chaos. Pure chaos. Glasses shattered. People screamed. Chloe was shrieking, "Stop it! Both of you, stop!" I felt his fist graze my jaw, a hot, bright spark of pain, and that was it. Every instinct took over. We crashed into the side table, the lamp exploding in a shower of glass and sparks. It was a blur of grunts and shoves and the horrified faces of our friends. I wasn't thinking. I was just reacting. 2 years of pent-up fury finally unleashed. I don't even remember how we ended up in the hallway. I just remember finally shoving him out the front door and slamming it shut, my chest heaving, my knuckles throbbing, the taste of blood sharp in my mouth. I turned around, breathing like a bull, the adrenaline screaming through my veins, and I looked at Chloe. She wasn't looking at the broken lamp. She wasn't looking at my bleeding lip. She was staring at me, and her eyes, they weren't scared or concerned. They were filled with betrayal. And the first words out of her mouth, they weren't, "Are you okay?" They weren't, "I'm so sorry he did that." She took a trembling step forward, her voice cold and sharp as the glass on the floor. "How could you embarrass me like that?" The fight wasn't over. It had just begun, and the real blow was yet to come. "How could you embarrass me like that?" Those words, they hit me harder than Mark's punch ever could. The adrenaline drained from my body, leaving me cold and hollow. The room was a disaster zone. Our friends had fled in awkward silence, and all she could think about was her embarrassment. The argument that followed was a circular hell. I was furious, hurt, betrayed. "He told you to dump me. In front of everyone. He swung at me first." I kept saying it like a mantra, hoping the sheer, obvious truth of it would break through to her. But she had her own mantra. "You escalated it. You brought up money. You got physical. You should have just ignored him. He was drunk." He was drunk, the oldest, lamest excuse in the book. I looked at this brilliant woman I loved, this PhD candidate who could deconstruct complex theories, and she was reducing this to, boys will be boys. It was breathtaking. I couldn't be in that apartment. The air was toxic. I grabbed my jacket and walked out. I spent the next few days at my buddy Ben's place, sleeping on his couch, trying to process the nuclear bomb that had gone off in my life. My phone was blowing up, but I ignored most of it. I needed space to think, to breathe. When I finally went back, the apartment was spotless. The broken lamp was gone. It was like the fight never happened. But the tension? You could taste it. Chloe was on the couch, her eyes puffy. We had the talk, the calm, devastating one. I apologized for my part. "I'm sorry I broke the lamp. I'm sorry it got physical. I lost my temper, and that's on me." I meant it, but I stood my ground. What I said, though, that was the truth. He has disrespected me since day one, and you've never once truly had my back. You've always made excuses for him. She nodded, tears welling up again. "I know he was wrong. What he said was horrible. But you were wrong too, Leo. You both were." She truly believed that. In her mind, his verbal assault and my physical reaction were equivalent sins. And then she said it. The words, "I'll never forget." She looked at me, her voice pleading but firm. "He's my family, Leo. I can't lose him. And I can't lose you. The only way through this is if you apologize to him." The floor dropped out from under me. "You want me to apologize to him? For what? For what you said? For provoking him? For the fight? If you apologize, he'll apologize too. I know he will, but you have to go first. You have to be the bigger person. please. For me. For us. There it was. The ultimatum. Not for him to respect me. Not for her to finally choose us. For me to kneel. For me to swallow every last shred of my dignity. To apologize to the man who spent 2 years systematically trying to destroy my relationship, who humiliated me in my own home, for the crime of finally fighting back. I looked at her face, so beautiful, so sure she was being reasonable, and in that moment I saw the next 40 years of my life flash before my eyes. Every holiday where Mark would be there, smirking. Every argument where his name would come up. Every time I'd have to bite my tongue. I would forever be the one who had to apologize. I would forever be second. My heart was breaking in my chest, a physical aching pain. But my voice was steady when I finally spoke. No, Chloe. I am not apologizing to him. I have nothing to apologize for. Her face fell. The hope in her eyes died. Then I don't know how this relationship can work, she whispered. I can't be with someone who won't even try to make peace with the most important people in my life. And there it was. The choice. My dignity or her. My self-respect or our future. I already knew my answer. I had known it from the moment she asked me to apologize. The hardest choices aren't between right and wrong. They're between two different kinds of pain. And I had to choose the pain I could live with. I stood up. Okay, I said, my voice hollow. Then I guess we're done. I walked out of our apartment for the last time. She was crying. I was numb. The door clicked shut behind me and the after officially began. The first week was a blur of pure grief. I crashed on Ben's couch, the reality of my decision sitting on my chest like a physical weight, making it hard to breathe. I'd lost her. I'd lost my home. I'd lost the future I'd pictured. For what? A principal? In the dead of night? It felt like the stupidest trade in history. I avoided our favorite places. I muted her on social media. The silence from her was deafening. I think a part of me, a stupid, hopeful part, expected her to call, to say she'd seen the light, that she'd chosen me, that she'd finally told Mark to go to hell. That call never came. Instead, I got a different call. From Sarah, Mark's girlfriend. She asked to meet for coffee. I almost said no. What was the point? But curiosity got the better of me. She looked tired. She stirred her latte for a solid minute before speaking. I'm sorry, Leo, she said, and she meant it. For everything, for all of it. I saw what he did to you for years. I always felt complicit for not saying anything. Then she told me what happened after I left. The fallout I never saw. Apparently, my refusal to apologize didn't magically make Mark the good guy. It unleashed him. He became insufferable. He expected Chloe to fully take his side, to vilify me completely. He started making more demands on her time, expecting her to be his emotional support system because he was the wronged party. But a funny thing happened. Without me there as a buffer, without me there to be the target, Chloe started to finally see his true colors. The protective brother act faded, and what was left was just a controlling, toxic man who couldn't stand not being the center of her universe. The final straw? He tried to get her to sue me for my half of the security deposit on the apartment. Sue me. For leaving. Sarah took a long sip of her coffee. She told him no, and he lost it. Called her disloyal, called her a bunch of names. And that was it for her. She finally saw it. She ended their friendship right then and there. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. He spent 2 years trying to get me out of the picture, and he succeeded, only to overplay his hand so spectacularly that he got himself kicked out too. The very toxicity he nurtured ended up consuming him. Sarah and Mark broke up not long after. She said she was done walking on eggshells around his ego. So there it was. The justice. It wasn't a grand, dramatic moment. There was no applause. It was quiet and messy and happened far away from me. The villain of my story didn't get hit by a bus. He just faded into the irrelevance he always deserved, having alienated the very person he fought so hard to keep. I wish I could tell you I felt triumphant. I didn't. I felt a profound sadness for Chloe. She lost 2 of the most important people in her life because she couldn't set a boundary. She had to learn the hardest way possible that you can't build a future with someone if you're always making room for a ghost from the past. As for me, the pain didn't vanish, but it began to transform. The weight on my chest, It wasn't grief anymore. It was the solid, unshakable knowledge that I had done the right thing. I had chosen myself. I had looked into the abyss of a lifetime of compromise and walked away. I started looking for a new apartment, a place that was just mine. No ghosts, no third shadows. The silence wasn't deafening anymore. It was peaceful. It was mine. I had lost the woman I loved, but I had found the man I was supposed to be. And that was a trait I could finally live with. People ask me if I regret it, if I wish I'd just swallowed my pride, muttered that apology, and kept my life with Chloe, and my answer is always the same, not for a single second. Do I miss her? Absolutely. I think I'll always miss the idea of her, the version of us that existed when it was just the two of us against the world. I'll miss the way she'd get so excited about a new book, the way she'd hum when she cooked, the future we planned. That grief is real, and it's okay to sit with it. But I don't miss the constant anxiety, the walking on eggshells, the feeling of being a guest in my own relationship, forever waiting for permission to be treated with basic respect. I don't miss the shadow of Mark looming over every happy moment, just waiting to sour it. What happened wasn't just about a jealous best friend. It was about a fundamental incompatibility in values. Chloe valued peacekeeping over truth. She valued the comfort of the past over the promise of the future. She valued not rocking the boat, even if it meant letting someone else punch holes in it. And I reached a point where I valued my own peace more than I valued the peace of the relationship. I realized that love shouldn't require you to abandon yourself at the door. It shouldn't feel like a battle you're fighting alone from the inside. The greatest lesson I learned from all of this is that your breaking point isn't your weakness. It's your boundary. It's the line your soul draws in the sand to tell the world, and more importantly, to tell yourself what you are willing to accept. And when you finally choose to honor that line, to defend it, that's not you causing a problem. That's you solving one. I didn't just walk away from Chloe that day. I walked towards myself. I chose the man I wanted to be, a man who respects himself, over the man someone else wanted me to be, a man who would settle for crumbs of respect. The justice wasn't in Mark's downfall. That was just a consequence. The real justice was internal. It was the quiet, unshakable peace I found on the other side of that pain. It was getting my own apartment and realizing the only energy in it was mine. It was the ability to look in the mirror and know without a doubt that I did the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing. So if you're in a similar situation, if you feel a constant low-grade hum of disrespect from someone your partner refuses to hold accountable, hear me. You are not crazy. You are not being too sensitive. Your feelings are valid. Have the hard conversation. Set the hard boundary. And if you're given an ultimatum that asks you to choose between your dignity and your relationship, choose your dignity. Every single time. Because the right person for you would never make you choose. The right person would already be standing beside you, defending that line with you. I thought Chloe was my happy ending. But sometimes, the happy ending is just happily moving on, wiser, stronger, and finally, completely, at peace with yourself. And that is a victory all on its own.